Okay, we're going to do review day 3, and we're just talking about circular motion, UCM, and energy. So uniform circular motion, UCM, I say it right, I can't write it right, UCM, means that the speed is constant. If it doesn't say the speed is constant, or it doesn't say uniform circular motion, you can't assume the speed is constant. However, I would say 90% of your problems, you are going at a constant speed. Of course, you're not going at a constant velocity because you are changing direction, right? So whenever you go in a circle, you can't have constant velocity. The acceleration, remember, is always inward. So that means your centripetal force is inward, your centripetal acceleration is inwards, no matter how you go. And you're never, ever, ever write FC in your free body diagram. So if I do a free body diagram, I draw my forces, and then I say, okay, maybe this is my net force, and since that's F net, that becomes my FC. So you use your F net equation to figure out what FC is, but you never write it in a free body diagram. The equations you should understand for circular motion is V equals 2 pi r over t, right? Because that's just the distance it travels per time. Don't confuse your T with FT, right? So it's not the force of tension. That T is our period, right? Which is the time it takes to go around. So sometimes if you're doing these problems, it's good to make tension like that, right? So that you know the difference between period and the force of tension. AC is always equal to V squared over R. That V is this V from up here. And now that I covered it up and you can't see it, let's do that. FC is just equal to MA, right? But it's MAC, and so you get V squared over R from that above equation. If you're doing vertical circles, you have forces. So remember at the top, gravity helps. And at the bottom, which is down here, you fight against gravity. Fight against gravity, right? So this would be like T or N and FG at the top, and this would be T and FG at the bottom. So in one case, you add them together, right? So when I'm here, T plus FG equals FC, and for this one, you would subtract T minus FG equals FC. What some of you noticed when we did the mass of the stopper, you could add these two together, right? If you add these two equations together, you notice the FGs go away, so you could end up with 2T is equal to 2FC, and you could go from there. But the concept is that they're going to always have more tension at the bottom and less tension at the top because gravity helps. So here are the equations again. Right here, it shows you T is less when you're at the top, right? Because you have gravity helping, and here tension at the bottom is more because you have to fight against gravity. For a horizontal circle, the tension is just simply equal to FC because there's nothing else acting there. All right, that's about all you need to know for circular motion. Yeah, there's angled ones, but just look for the component that is going to the center, right? And then for work, we're in vector land. So remember, once we get down here, we're in vector land. We are in scalar land. So once we get down here, we are doing everything in scalars. So we care about positive or negative, but not direction. Remember, work is the force applied over some distance, so if it doesn't move, there's no work. Remember, if force is perpendicular to the distance, that means that there's no work as well, because it has to have a component parallel to x. And while, yes, work is equal to fx cosine theta, that cosine theta is just the angle to help you figure out the component. So if I have an object like this and I'm pushing like this and I look at the two components and it's moving in that direction, this is just telling me I want this component. That's what that cosine means. Don't just arbitrarily do cosine because, what if they give you the wrong angle? Like if they gave me this angle, that would be the sine, right? So you just know you want this component that's going in the same direction as the motion. You should understand the concept that if you're pushing straight on, you're going to do more work, and as you move your angle, it's going to do less work, and if you push straight down, then there's no work. Work energy theorem states that work changes the energy of an object. And so to have a delta K, you have work. So that's the change in 1/2 mv squared, which is the 1/2 mvf squared minus v naught squared. Sometimes one of those is 0. So then you can set work equal to 1/2 mv squared, but it has to have 1 0. Otherwise, you can also change your potential energy, like with our horsepower lab, where we went up, right? When you went up the stairs, then my work that I did on my body was simply equal to mgh based on the height that I went up. Otherwise, the total energy stays the same. That's conservation of energy. And so if there is no work done on it, then you can simply say mgh, or the change in mgh, I should say, is equal to the change in ke with a negative in front of it, right? Or 1/2 mv squared, or however you want to do it. It's that concept, right? It's the bowling ball, right? As the bowling ball goes back and forth, right? It starts up here, goes down here, comes over here, but the energy total is always the same, right? It just converts, right? So here we have potential energy, here we have kinetic energy, and here we have potential energy. You can have anything in between. So as you lose UG, you gain KE. As you lose KE, you go back to UG, as long as there's no extra work. I can't push the bowling ball. That won't work. Well, that would work. It would make me have more energy, though. And so here are a couple sample problems that go along with it. So let's see if you can do these. These are like multiple choice, real quick ones that you should be able to do. So if we look at this one, what is the minimum speed for a 200 kilogram roller coaster in order to negotiate a vertical 2-meter loop? So I've got a circle, and I want to know how fast it has to go up here. I know the radius of my circle. And I know if it's minimum, that means that there's minimum means no N, right? Or no tension, but there's no other force. So that means the only force that's keeping it in a circle is Fg. So then I can say, oh, okay, so mg is my centripetal force, which is mv squared over r. I cancel out my m's, and then I can solve, and I can see v is equal to the square root of 2rg, which is the square root of 2 times 10, give or take, which is 400. Square root of 400 is 20 meters per second, right? 20 meters per second. All right? I'm going to erase that. Next one. So let's try a rock. A rock is thrown upwards at 20 meters per second using energy. Because remember, you can always go back to kinematics, and you guys like to, but energy is so much easier. So we're going to practice with energy. How high will it rise? And so if I take a rock and I throw it up, then I know that it starts with kinetic energy and it ends with potential energy. And I know that there's no other work done on it because the only thing doing work on it is gravity. But that's considered within the system if I have UG. So therefore, mgh equals 1/2 mv squared. The m's cancel. I'm trying to find h, so it's equal to v squared over 2g, which is equal to 20 meters per second squared over basically 20. And lo and behold, it comes out 20 meters. Simple. Done. Right? Kinematics would have taken me 3 or 4 steps. Yes, I can do in one. Then the last one. Again, I'm going to erase this so I have a clear slate. I'm trying to make it clean. As clean as I can get it. All right, so the last one here, using energy conservation, again, because we're trying to practice with energy, determine the coefficient of friction for a horizontal surface with a car that is moving at 30 meters per second and comes to stop in 100 meters. So this time I'm going to do work of friction is equal to my change in kinetic energy, right? And so my work of friction is going to be the force of friction times x, which is equal to 1/2 mv squared, but I know it's on a flat horizontal surface, so this becomes mu mgx equals 1/2 mv squared, so I can see the m's cancel. And so if I'm trying to find mu, then I can see that mu is equal to v squared over 2gx. And so that would be 30 meters per second squared over 2 times 10 meters per second squared times 100 meters. And I believe you plug all that in, it comes out to be 0.45. All right, hopefully that helps.